But here's a story told to me by a friend of mine, Rabbi Meir Tabib. And he told me this story 20 years ago. The story is like this, that once he went, I think it was on Purim, with a bunch of Chabad people in Israel to a home for the aged. How do they call it? Assisted living, assisted in Israel. And the other people played music and they danced and it was happy. An old fellow came up to him and said, "You're from Chabad?" Yes. He said, "I have a story to tell." He said that this man said that he used to be the librarian, chief librarian or at least he was in charge of the main library of Mapai. Mapai was a very leftist organization in Israel, and I think in Tel Aviv or Jerusalem, wherever it was. And his job was he would go around the world and get books for the library, look for books for the library. And among his journeys, he would go to Chabad in Brooklyn because the Lubavitcher Rebbe had the biggest, or one of the biggest, books of libraries of Judaism in the world, including all sorts of non-religious and anti-religious, all sorts of weird books he's got over there. Anyway, a huge, huge library. So he would go over there also. He had permission to look around. He had a good friend, one of the rabbi's main secretaries. His name was Rabbi Klein. Rabbi Klein, he dealt mostly with the Israelis. He was an Israeli, a wonderful man. Passed away a few years ago. But this story happened 20 years ago. So this old man tells my friend Mir Tabib, who's now telling me, this man said that he was the head of this library of Mapai. He went around the world and he went to New York, where the Lubavitcher Rebbe is, and his friend Rabbi Klein let him go into the library and look around. And it happened to be that when he was there, came the holiday of Yom Kippur. So Rabbi Klein said, "Listen, you're a Jew." And he was totally not religious, totally, totally not, but he was very intelligent and a very nice person. So he said, "Listen, you're here for Yom Kippur. Maybe it'll be an interesting experience for you to come with me. I'll give you a good seat, wherever it is, in the synagogue. And for Yom Kippur, you can stay as long as you want to." And he gave him a machzor. Maybe he brought a couple of books on his own. Anyway, so he was sitting there with the machzor and he was reading. Everybody else is praying and they're crying and they're this. And he's sitting there looking through the words, examining this word and analyzing this and that. All of a sudden, he comes across this prayer that we say in the Musaf prayer, that the 10 great tzaddikim that were killed, tortured by the Romans, they were tortured to death by the Romans. And one of them had his skin peeled off, and the other one was raked with rakes and everything like that. And terrible, painful, shameful deaths. And the angels said to God, "This is the Torah and this is the reward." And God said to the angels, "Be quiet, or I'll turn the world back to water, like it was before it was created." So this fellow from Mapai, he tells Meir Tabib, said, this is what, in Judaism, you can't ask questions. The angels asked a good question. Here there were these great Torah scholars, they're being tortured to death. They devoted their life to Torah, and that's the reward they get, that they're tortured to death. So he went to Rabbi Klein and he asked him what's going on. So they were in the middle of the prayers. Rabbi Klein told him to wait. And as soon as there was a break in the prayers, like after the main prayers of the day, so there's like an hour, 2 hour break. So they went and they asked this old chassid. And the old chassid said, "You got a good question." Right? That's what the angels asked. A good question. This is the Torah and this is the reward they get. And God said, "Shut up. Be quiet. Don't ask any questions. I'll turn the world back to water." So he said, I'll give you an example. I'll tell you a story which will demonstrate. Once upon a time, there was a king. And this king had an advisor. The bishop was an advisor. But he also had another advisor, which was a Jew. And the Jew would give him very interesting advice. This Jew was not an official advisor. This Jew was he was the king's tailor, and the king would go to him once in a while for measurements for this. And once in a while, the king would get into conversations with him, and he would ask him questions and sometimes advice, and the Jew would give amazing advice. And it ended up that the king started going to this Jewish tailor. The bishop, of course, couldn't stand this. He was tremendously jealous. So he developed, he opened, how do you say, he worked on a plan to get this Jew killed. How did he do it? He went into the marketplace. He was in the marketplace, and suddenly he heard one of the sellers in the marketplace called him over and says, "Listen, I have this very fine silk. I'll have a whole roll of silk bought from Italy. Maybe you'd like to buy it." Suddenly he got this idea. So he bought this roll of silk. And he said, "Your Majesty, I have bought for you silk, holy silk. It's holy from Rome. And I think that you should make a garment. As soon as it's going to be the king's birthday, you should have a garment, special garment made from this silk, this holy silk. And I think the only person that could make such a garment would be your tailor, Jewish tailor. I just want to warn the king, you have to tell the tailor not to take even one little part of this silk because it's precious. Don't even take a little bit of it for himself. He has to return everything, all the little pieces, everything." The bishop knew that there's going to be some sort of little piece that's going to be missing, and then he's going to get the Jew. So sure enough, the Jew makes a garment for the king, and it's just beautiful. It's seamless. You can't see, there's no beautiful garment for the king. And the king loves it. He looks in the mirror, can't stop looking at himself in the mirror, just this amazing sort of royal garment he makes for him. And that evening, as soon as the Jew leaves, a few hours later comes the bishop with a few of his other priests with him, and they're all dressed in black, and they say, "Your Majesty, the Jew stole some of the garment. He stole some of it. We told him not to do it, but he did it, and he did it in order because he wants to put a curse on the king and on a religion." So the king said, "Okay, the bishop says it." So he had the Jew, the tailor, arrested. And the tailor said, "What am I being arrested for?" He said, "Because you took part of the royal holy garment. I told you not to." And the tailor denied it. So the king said, "Well, I'm sorry, the bishop and all the other great, priests and these holy people, they say you did it. And it's just their word against yours. And, they're holy people. They wouldn't." So he said, "Okay." The tailor said, "No problem. But I have a question. I have one request. Before you kill me, one request." "What's the request?" "I want you to give me the garment and I want a scissors." So the king said, "Listen, if you plan to wreck the garment, then I'll torture you, have you tortured to death. We were good friends. I really liked you. And I'm choosing for you a very painless death. But if you wreck the garment, your death will last for weeks, maybe months. I'll have you tortured to death." He said, "No problem. No problem." So he took the scissors and he delicately and you say professionally, he cut away all of the threads until the garment was separated one from the other. He laid the whole thing on the table, and he saw that was the whole entire roll of silk was there. Not one thread was missing. He said, "You see, Your Majesty, nothing is missing." He said, "That's," this old Jew said to the Israeli. He said, "You see, that's exactly what's happening over here. The angels, they accused God of doing something unjustly. You're killing these people. They learned the Torah. You're killing them. That's the Torah and that's the reward." And God said, "Listen, what do you want me to do? To unravel the whole world, go back to the beginning of creation and show you that this is part of the whole plan. To take the whole thing and unravel it and just lay it down on the table, you see that nothing is missing from the original plan of the creation of the world, that this was part of it. I'm not going to do that for you, angels. Maybe I would do it for the tzaddikim." You see, they don't ask any questions. They have no questions. They realize that this is part of my plan. Therefore, we can understand that all the trouble that the Jewish people have had up to now are all part of a big program, but we should have a lot of questions. And eventually, God is going to unravel the whole thing and show us how this is exactly for the best. And the king, which will be the Mashiach, will have his garment, and the whole world will be wallowing in truth and joy. Have a good day with Mashiach now.